Hello, class. This is John Marcinizin here. And this is our second lecture scheduled for Wednesday, March 18th. Renaissance music, ranging from roughly 1425 to 1600. As you can see, I'm attempting to do this posting a different way. You can hear my voice, but you will see my screenshot. So let's see how this works. You're viewing my iPad, that is, and I will try to, as skillfully as possible, move from one screen to the other as necessary. So this is what we're covering today. Music under March 18th, Renaissance music. And we will be looking at two composers, Josquin du Pré, and listening to a composition by his called The Cricket. And this is a secular song. We talked about secular music the last time, anything that is non-liturgical, meaning not written for the church, not for the Mass, or any type of religious service. And the second piece is Thomas Wilkes' As Vesta Was from Latmus Hill Descending, and that is also a secular piece, and more specifically, it is a madrigal. So, here is page 9 of your syllabus. Those are the medieval terms that we went over some of last time. So don't worry about the ones we didn't talk about. And here are some of the ones that we will cover today under Renaissance music. So let's just give an overview of Renaissance music. So as you recall, hopefully, by the time we got to the end of the medieval period, music is starting to become more polyphonic, more than one melody at the same time. And we will discover as we move into the Renaissance period that the music becomes increasingly more polyphonic and more complicated. So that's the simplest way to show how the music is changing. There is a lot of vocal music. There is instrumental music being written, but we will find, and we've already discovered, the church music is primarily a cappella at this time. And there you see it on your screen. Vocal music without instrumental accompaniment. And vocal music is extremely popular throughout the Middle Ages, the medieval period, that is, means the same thing, and the Renaissance period, although there is instrumental secular music being written. And we'll see an increase of that as we move forward in time. But today we're going to listen to some more vocal music. So the Renaissance period, simplest way of thinking of the texture is that it's more polyphonic and the texture is thicker. So maybe we have 4 or more melodies at the same time. Rather than just 2 melodies as we had in the piece that we listened to last lecture by Francesco Landini. So, 1425 to 1600. Vocal music we will be focusing on. And let's start with this piece by Josquin du Pré. So, here he is, Josquin du Pré. His dates are roughly 1450 to 1521, as listed there. Josquin was a priest. He wrote a lot of liturgical music, but interestingly enough, we are going to listen to a secular piece of his. Whoops. I'm going to put this up since I mentioned this. Josquin wrote music for the Mass Ordinary. And I even had that under medieval period. These would be the specific portions of the Roman Catholic Mass that are sung at every Mass, every church service, the Kyrie, Gloria, Credo, Sanctus, Agnus Dei. So he would set music for these different settings, these different texts, these different songs, we might say, for each Mass. So that's what he is best known for, even though, interestingly, we're listening to a secular song of his. So he wrote a lot of non-liturgical music, and this is a very simple one to follow. It's called the cricket. So what is a cricket? Well, it's an insect, right? And that's what this song is. It's, you might even say it's a nonsense song. The lyrics are about a cricket, sort of alludes to spring. And this piece uses a technique called word painting. Word painting listed there. Musical representation of specific poetic images. So what does that mean? So it means that when we hear the lyric, the music tries to match what we are hearing. So we try to musically represent what the text is saying. So, for example, here it is, El Grillo, which means the cricket. Here's the text. The cricket is a good singer who can hold a long note. So we'll notice that when we're listening to the recording and watching the video, on the word long, the note is actually held longer. Very simple, very obvious way of using word painting. Of drinking, the cricket sings. The cricket is a good singer, but he doesn't do what birds do after they've sung a bit. They go somewhere else. The cricket always stays put. So this song has just a little bit of word painting. The next one is a better example of how extensively one can use word painting. So without further ado, let's move to this video and have a listen. Okay, so where am I on my videos? Here it is, El Grillo.
El grillo è buon cantore che tiene il lungo verso. Dalle, beve, grillo, canta, dalle, beve, grillo, canta. El grillo è buon cantore che tiene il lungo verso. El grillo è buon cantore, ma non fa come gli altri uccelli, come lì han cantato un poco. El grillo è buon cantore, quando è fatto in altro loco, sempre il grillo sta por saldo. Quando la maggiore callo, allora canta sol per amore. El grillo è buon cantore che tiene il lungo verso. Dalle, beve, grillo, canta, dalle, beve, grillo, canta. El grillo è buon cantore.
Okay, that's it. El Grillo. Hold on, I'm just trying to... Yeah. Here it is again. Here's the notation. I'm putting this up just to visually see what we're listening to. So soprano, alto, tenor, bass. We're listening to music in 4 parts. This is polyphonic. But you'll notice that, see how the notes tend to stack up, and the words that are being sung are the same by each of the singers. When we move to our next piece, As Vesta Was from Latmus Hill Descending, notice that this will be much more complicated. Now, right now, everybody is singing the same rhythm and saying the same words, but this is quickly going to change. I'm just going to play a little of this. And look at that already. We have different rhythms. Imitation, remember that word? Imitative polyphony. Okay. And look, how many lines do we have here? There's a good place to pause it. How many lines do we have here? We have 6. Look at that. Up at the top, it says SS, right? Those are sopranos split in 2. Then there's an alto. Then there are 2 tenors and 1 bass. So at times, we have as many as 6 singers at the same time. So this next piece that we will listen to is far more complicated. Okay. Now, one other thing that I wanted to mention just briefly is the form. I didn't mention this with the Josquin piece. Here is the English translation. The cricket is a good singer who can hold a long note of drinking. The cricket sings. The cricket is a good singer. Okay, so we would call that the A section. That's the first verse, and we have specific music. Then we get to the second verse. The words change and the music changes, but he doesn't do what birds do. After they've sung a bit, they go somewhere else. The cricket always stays put, and when the weather is hottest, he sings softly for love. That's the second verse. And the words as well as the music changes. That would be your B section. Then finally, just like we had at the beginning, the cricket is a good singer who can hold a long note of drinking. The cricket sings. The cricket is a good singer. The A section again. So very simple form. A, B, A. Okay? Hopefully that makes sense. Now, let's talk a little bit about our second composer. And I thought I disabled my notifications, but apparently they're coming through anyway. So I'll try to swipe those away when that happens. Thomas Wilkes, 1575 to 1623. Those are his dates. Our second Renaissance composer of the day. And for him, we are listening to a madrigal. So, what is a madrigal? There it is. It's a secular song introduced in Italy. Introduced in Italy that became popular in England, and we are going to listen to an English madrigal. It's polyphonic. We know what that is. We've been talking about it, and this is much more polyphonically complicated than the cricket that we just heard. It's a cappella, vocal music, and it uses word painting. Well, we already know what word painting is. So that's good. As I mentioned, the madrigal was something that was originally popular in Italy. That seems to be where it started. And then it gains popularity throughout Europe. And it really takes hold in England. And Thomas Wilkes is a good example of what madrigal composers do. This is something that So music was part of a traditional education back then, just like reading, writing, and arithmetic might be. And that's something else that's happening in the Renaissance period. It's more common to get an education and to be education, especially if you are from a privileged class. And so you had more people that knew how to read music at this time. It was part of their common education, and perhaps what they might do for fun, for evening entertainment, if they had leisure time, would be to stand around and sing these madrigals, these highly polyphonic compositions. Now, another thing that is interesting about the writing of madrigals is, and writing of music in general, has to do with who are these composers? How are they making a living? So composers in this period, musicians, they're considered to be craftsmen. Unlike how we might see them today as being artists, or in some cases, right, they're celebrities, right? Musicians are celebrities. But they were craftsmen. They were seen that way. They had a function in society. And you basically have three classes of people in this period. You have the very wealthy that have everything, the very poor that have nothing, and the middle class, which works. These are the people that work for the extremely wealthy. So the extremely wealthy, this is the aristocracy that own a lot of land, castles, had unbelievable amounts of wealth, and they had huge staffs working for them. Builders, cooks, educators, everything that you can imagine, you were working for the privileged class, the aristocracy. That would include your musicians. So many of these aristocratic courts had entire orchestras employed, right? You didn't have the internet, you didn't even have the radio. So you would have an orchestra sitting there writing music, and you would have a composer, perhaps, that was writing a lot of music for the court. So here's the text for As Vesta Was from Latmus Hill Descending, which we're going to talk about in just a minute. So, talk about the word painting. So Thomas Wilkes, what it was also important for a composer to do, in order, if you want to keep your job, you would flatter your patron, the person that is employing you. So it was very common to write music that did just that. And this is an example of that. So, As Vesta Was from Latmus Hill Descending. So Vesta is the Roman goddess of home. She spies a maiden queen, the same, ascending, and the maiden queen would be reference to Queen Elizabeth. So right there from the beginning of this poem, the composer is comparing Queen Elizabeth to a goddess. Attended on all the shepherd swain, to whom Diana's darlings came running down amain. So Diana's darlings would be the attendants of the goddess Vesta, and they're so excited to see Queen Elizabeth, they come running down the hill to see her. So it's a very simple poem going on, but it is all in flattery of Queen Elizabeth. So let's talk a little bit about the word painting that we're about to hear. When we listen to this song, As Vesta was from Latmus Hill descending, she spies a maiden queen the same, ascending. So descending and ascending. What do you think we might hear there musically we hear music, we hear a melody going down the scale. Ascending, we hear a melody going up the scale. Attended on by all the shepherds swain, to whom Diana's darlings came running down amain. First, 2 by 2, we hear only 2 voices. Then 3 by 3, leaving their goddess all alone. So when we hear somebody sing all alone, there's one person in this highly polyphonic piece singing all alone. So that would be a straightforward example of word painting. And mingling with the shepherds of her train, with mirthful tunes her presence entertain. Then sang the shepherds and the nymphs of Diana. And here's the last line, long live fair Oriana. So that last line, long live fair Oriana, is practically half the song. We hear that over and over and over again in imitative polyphony. So Oriana is another name for the queen. So there's a common saying that we've heard before, long live the queen. So that's basically what this song is saying. So it's flattering the queen. It's comparing her to a goddess. And this piece employs word painting that we will point out as we hear it. So, yeah, let's, I guess we could follow this piece. Then I'll play a little bit of the other clip that I have up for you that actually lets us see the singers. Let's follow the text and the visually see how the polyphony is moving. Look at all those descending lines. She spied. That's all imitative polyphony. Notice how the notes go up on the word ascending. Running down amain, all those descending melody lines. This is word painting. That's what madrigals do, word painting. First 2 by 2, then 3 by 3, then 3 by 3 together, leaving their goddess all alone, by itself, one singer. And mingling with the shepherds of the train, with the shepherds of the train, with mirth entertain. Then sang the shepherds and hymns of Diana, hymns of Diana. Long live fair Oriana, over and over again. Long live the queen. Flattering your patron, the person that is employing you. And there you have it. I'm going to play just a little bit of the other clip. This is the one that you actually have in your syllabus with the link that we could actually. Just want to point out a couple things. Of course, they're singing this from memory. There's no instrumental accompaniment. It's a cappella. So you have to be a pretty amazing singer to be able to sing in harmony with all these different lines happening at the same time, and to sing in tune. Again, descending, running down a main, word painting. Word painting, musical representation of specific poetic images. All alone, one singer.
And mingling with the shepherds of the stream, with the shepherds of the stream, with shepherds then sang the shepherds and hymns of Diana, hymns of Diana.
Long live the Queen. So again, just to point out the highly polyphonic texture of this piece. A lot of melodies at the same time. And they end together. And get a big applause as they should. That's a great performance. Okay, so just to touch on the Wikipedia links for you. What did we talk about today? Renaissance music. There it is. There's your article. We narrowed it down really just to talk about how highly polyphonic this is. And once we leave this period, we have one more class, couple more pieces that we'll do next time. But when we leave this period, music initially becomes more homophonic before it becomes polyphonic again. So Renaissance music. Music written roughly between 1425 and 1600. Our first composer today was Josquin du Pré. His dates are roughly 1450 to 1521. He was a priest, wrote a lot of liturgical music. Wrote a lot of music for the Mass, but we listened to a secular song of his that called The Cricket that demonstrated word painting. And there is the text El Grillo, which means the cricket. Followed by Thomas Wilkes. There's your article on Thomas Wilkes, the English composer, and the text for As Vesta Was from Latmus Hill Descending. That link you might not have, but you have it in this video anyway, and you can look it up. So, and here's what we did, Renaissance music. So we focused on the madrigal, word painting, and how composers are making a living. You're part of the court system. And that's a nice job to have, because it's not a one-time gig. It's an employment. It's a everyday job. So you're writing music. If you're the composer, you're probably the music director too. So you're writing, you're organizing and directing the other musicians. And all the musicians in the court are probably giving music lessons, not only to the children, I mean, primarily, educating the children, but to, to the adult patrons as well. Motet we really didn't talk about, but there it is. In the Renaissance, it's a sacred choral work for the Roman Catholic Church. So it would be, musically speaking, it would sound very much like the madrigal that we heard today, but it would be liturgical. So next class, we will be focusing on just two more composers. William Byrd, another piece for a cappella for a large choir, and it will be liturgical. And we'll listen to an instrumental piece by John Dowland, the most popular instrument of that period, which would be the lute. It's a guitar-like instrument, plucked string instrument similar to the guitar, dominating chordal instrument of the Renaissance. So that's all I have for today. Again, any questions, please email, and I will get back to you ASAP. And if you need to talk, send me a phone number and I will give you a call and we can talk about it. We will also review for the first exam, which is on Monday, March 23rd. As a reminder, I know some of you were not in our last physical class, which was on last Friday, March 13, but the exam will be distributed through Blackboard via email on Monday, March 23rd, right at the beginning of class, 5 minutes before class time. You have 50 minutes to complete it and mail it back to me, email it back to me. So that's it for now. See you in the next video.